Tonight, we travel back to the golden sands of ancient Egypt to walk beside Hatshepsut, the woman who became king. But first, come in from the dark, leave the outside world behind. You are safe here, warm and protected. If you wish to easily find your way back to this sanctuary another night, consider subscribing. Now settle in, let your shoulders drop. The fire is crackling low in the hearth, and the perfect volume is already waiting on the desk. It is heavy, smelling of cedar and old linen. Let us open the pages. Our story begins. Before the golden disk of the sun claims the sky, there is only the river. Imagine, if you will, the profound silence of a world holding its breath. We are standing on the banks of the Nile, in the heart of Thebes, but the great city is not yet awake. It is that precise, fragile moment between the realm of dreams and the waking world. The air here is surprisingly cool, pressing against your skin with a damp, gentle weight that carries the ancient scent of wet earth and fertile black mud. It is a smell of life, raw and deep, rising from the reed beds where the water laps quietly against the shore. Can you hear it? The river does not roar, it whispers, it moves with a heavy, languid grace, a dark ribbon of obsidian sliding through the valley. A low mist clings to the surface of the water, curling in ghostly tendrils that drift slowly, ever so slowly, through the tall stalks of papyrus. The mist is thick and white, obscuring the far bank, making the world feel small, intimate, as if nothing exists beyond this immediate circle of grey and blue. The stars are fading now. One by one they blink out, surrendering to the creeping violet light that bleeds upward from the eastern horizon. But the heat has not yet arrived. There is a crispness to the breeze that rustles the palm fronds above our heads. Listen to that sound. It is a dry, rhythmic clattering, like thousands of paper fans waving in unison, soothing and monotonous. It is the only movement in a landscape of stone and water. As the violet deepens to a bruised indigo, the birds begin to stir. It starts with a single call, lonely and piercing, echoing across the flat water. Perhaps it is an ibis, waking in the rushes, shaking the dew from its white feathers. Then another joins, and another, until a soft chorus of chirps and trills weaves through the mist. They are not loud, these morning songs. They are tentative, muffled by the fog, soft punctuation marks in the long flowing sentence of the dawn. You can feel the moisture settling on your skin, a fine, cool dew that kisses your face. It gathers on the petals of the blue lotus flowers that float near the bank. These flowers are still closed, their secrets wrapped tight within green sepals, waiting for the first touch of the sun god Ra to unfurl. They bob gently in the current, oblivious to the grandeur of the temples rising in the distance. Here, at the water's edge, nature is performing its own quiet ritual, a ceremony of renewal that has happened every morning for thousands of years. The river flows, the mist rises, and the earth waits with infinite patience for the return of the light. Let us leave the river bank now, moving silently away from the water, our feet sinking softly into the cool sand. We are drifting toward the great stone heart of the city, toward the vast complex of Karnak. The walls loom out of the twilight, massive and imposing, their sandstone surfaces cool to the touch. If you ran your hand along these stones, you would feel the rough grain, the chill of the night still trapped within the rock. But inside the enclosure walls, the silence is different. It is not the open, organic silence of the river, but a heavy, constructed silence, a silence built of stone and shadow. Deep within the temple, far from the eyes of the common people, a single figure is moving. He is the high priest, and he has purified himself in the sacred lake, the water shivering against his skin in the pre-dawn chill. Now he walks through the hall of columns. His sandals are made of papyrus, and they make a soft, rhythmic shushing sound against the polished stone floor. Shh, shh, shh. It is the only sound in the vast hall, echoing faintly up into the darkness where the stone capitals bloom like giant flowers against the ceiling. The air here is thick with the memory of yesterday's incense. It smells of stale myrrh and old beeswax, a resinous, sweet scent that hangs in the stillness. It is a scent of holiness, of ancient secrets preserved in amber. The priest carries a single lamp, the small flame flickering, casting long dancing shadows that stretch and warp against the hieroglyphs carved into the walls. The gods painted there seem to move in the flickering light, their eyes watching his progress. He approaches the sanctuary, the Holy of Holies. It is a small room, intimate and dark, nestled like a seed within the layers of the temple. In the centre stands the shrine, sealed and silent. The priest pauses. He can feel the weight of the moment pressing down on him. This is not merely a chore. This is the maintenance of the universe. If he does not wake the god, the sun might not rise, the chaos might creep back in. With trembling, reverent hands, he reaches for the clay seal on the doors of the shrine. He breaks it. The sound is sharp, a sudden crack that snaps through the quiet. Then he slides the wooden bolt back. The wood is smooth, worn by generations of priests who have stood in this exact spot. He pulls the doors open. Darkness meets darkness. But then he lifts his lamp. The light catches the gold. Inside the shrine, the statue of the god Ammon stands waiting. The gold of his skin glows with a warm inner fire, reflecting the tiny flame of the lamp. The priest bows low, chanting the morning hymn in a voice that is little more than a vibration in his throat. He whispers to the god, telling him that the night is over, that the enemy has been vanquished, that it is time to wake. He takes a censer of gold and places burning charcoal within it. He sprinkles pellets of Kai-Fi incense onto the coals. Watch the smoke rise. It is thick and grey, curling lazily into the air, instantly filling the small space with a powerful spicy aroma. It smells of cinnamon, honey, wine and raisins, a rich, intoxicating perfume meant to please the divine senses. The smoke wraps around the golden statue, veiling the god in a sweet cloud, linking the earth to the heavens. There is a profound sense of intimacy here. Just the priest and the god, face to face in the dark, breathing in the same scented air. The rest of the world does not exist. There is only this ritual, this careful washing of the statue, the changing of its clothes, the offering of food and drink. It is a tender act, performed with the gentle care of a mother waking a child, yet it carries the gravity of keeping the stars in their courses. Outside the sanctuary, the sky is finely changing. The violet has turned to a pale, luminous rose. The first rays of the sun strike the top of the Benben stone, the tip of the great obelisk. It ignites like a torch. The gold plating at the summit catches the light and blazes, sending a beam of pure brilliance down into the temple complex. This is the arrival of Maat. Maat is not just a goddess. She is feeling. She is the concept of rightness, of order, of truth. As the sunlight spills over the walls of Thebes, pouring like liquid gold into the streets and courtyards, you can feel the restoration of balance. The chaos of the night, with its demons and uncertainties, is burned away. The atmosphere shifts. The heaviness of the dark lifts, replaced by a clarity that is sharp and bright. In the palace of Maat, which is the world itself, everything has its place. The river flows north, the wind blows south, the sun rises in the east to die in the west. This is the divine order. Imagine standing in a vast courtyard now, as the full light of morning washes over the stone. The shadows are long and stark, stretching across the sand, but they are retreating. The air warms rapidly, losing its damp chill, becoming dry and comfortable. You can feel the warmth on your face, gentle at first, like a warm hand cupping your cheek. The silence of the dawn begins to break, not with noise, but with the sounds of organized life. The distant lowing of cattle being led to pasture, the rhythmic thud of a pestle grinding grain, the soft splash of oars entering the river as the first boats push off from the shore. These are not chaotic sounds. They are the heartbeat of a city that lives in harmony with the cycles of the gods. There is a sense of immense stability here. Look at the statues of the pharaohs guarding the gates. They sit with their hands on their knees, their expressions calm, serene, gazing eternally toward the rising sun. They do not smile, nor do they frown. They simply are. They embody the permanence of stone, the endurance of the land. In this light, the colours of Thebes come alive. The red granite of the statues, the white limestone of the walls, the vivid blues and greens painted on the cornices. It is a feast for the eyes, a world of saturated colour that stands in defiance of the desert's beige monotony. The light creates geometry, carving the city into shapes of light and dark, order and structure. You take a deep breath. The air no longer smells just of river mud. Now it carries the scent of baking bread from the temple kitchens, a warm, yeasty smell that promises sustenance. It carries the faint, dry dust of the desert, reminding you of the vast emptiness that surrounds this strip of green. And beneath it all, still lingering, is the sweet, resinous ghost of the incense from the inner sanctuary drifting out to bless the streets. The awakening of Thebes is complete. The gods are fed. The sun has risen. The balance is held for one more day. The world is safe, wrapped in the golden embrace of the morning, breathing in the rhythm of the eternal Nile. And we are here, watching, listening, feeling the pulse of this ancient life beat slowly, steadily, against our own. Close your eyes now. Let the solid world around you dissolve, fading into the soft, shifting haze of a dream. We are drifting backward, floating upstream against the currents of time, until we reach a night that exists only in whispers and sacred texts. It is a night of profound stillness, where the air itself seems heavy with expectation. The story begins in the royal bedchamber of the Queen. Ahmose. Her name is a soft breath, a sigh in the darkness. She lies sleeping upon a bed of ebony and woven gold, the linen sheets cool against her skin. The room is dark, but it is not empty. There is a presence here drawing closer, a warmth that radiates through the stone walls. It starts with a scent. Before there is sight, there is smell. It is a fragrance that does not belong to the mortal world. It is the rich, resinous aroma of the land of Punt, a concentrated essence of pure divinity. It smells of fresh frankincense, of amber warmed by the sun, of spices that have never grown in earthly soil. The scent fills the room, thick and intoxicating, waking the queen not with a touch, but with the sheer power of its perfection. She opens her eyes. The darkness has fled. The room is flooded with a golden light, a brilliance that casts no shadows. Standing before her is not the pharaoh, her husband, though the figure wears his form. This being is far greater. His skin glows with the lustre of electrum. His eyes hold the depth of the night sky and the fire of the sun. It is Amun, the hidden one, the king of gods, who has descended from the heavens to walk upon the earth. He offers her the ankh, the symbol of life. He holds it to her nose, and she breathes in the essence of immortality. It is a cool, revitalizing draught, like drinking from a mountain. Spring after a long journey across the desert. The sensation is overwhelming. It is a mingling of souls, a fusion of the divine and the human. In the silence of that golden chamber, a promise is made. A child will be born, a child who will possess the heart of a lion and the soul of a god, a child who is destined to rule not merely as a queen, but as a king. This is the myth that wraps around her like a second skin. Before she even takes her first breath of river air, Hatshepsut is woven from starlight and prophecies. She is the daughter of the morning, the flesh of the sun, conceived in a dream of gold and incense. The dream fades, and the bright, hard sunlight of Thebes returns. See the child now. She is small, a delicate figure moving through a landscape built for giants. The palace of Thebes is a world of stone, a labyrinth of vast halls and soaring colonnades. To a child it must seem endless. The columns rise up like a forest of petrified trees, their trunks thick and immovable. Disappearing into the shadows of the ceiling high above, she runs her hand along the base of a limestone pillar. Feel the texture with her. The stone is cool, despite the heat of the day. It is rough in places where the chisels of the masons have left their marks, and smooth in others, polished by the wind and the hands of generations. Her fingers trace the outlines of the hieroglyphs carved into the rock. She is too young to read them all yet, but she knows their shapes, the curve of the ibis, the rigid lines of the throne, the zigzag of the water. They are tactile secrets, a language of texture that speaks to her fingertips. The light in these halls is dramatic and sharp. Beams of sunlight slice through the clerestory windows, cutting through the dusty air like solid bars of gold. Dust motes dance in these shafts of light, swirling in slow hypnotic circles. She watches them, mesmerized. They are like tiny stars suspended in the heavy silence of the palace. And it is silent here. Palace is a place of hushed voices and soft footsteps. The noise of the city, the braying of donkeys and the shouting of merchants is a distant hum, kept at bay by the thick mud-brick walls. Here the only sounds are the rustle of pleated linen as a servant passes, or the distant rhythmic chanting of priests in the temple complex next door. She walks across the flagstones. Her sandals are small, made of woven palm leaves. They make a light slapping sound against the floor. Slap, slap, slap. The sound echoes faintly, emphasizing the vastness of the space. She feels small but not afraid. How can she be afraid? The faces carved into the walls are her family. The statues that loom in the shadows, with their false beards and calm expressions, are her ancestors. They watch her with stone eyes, guarding her steps. She belongs to them, and they belong to her. She finds a spot of shade beneath a colossal statue of her father, Thutmose I. The stone is cold against her back as she leans against it. She smells the dry dust of the courtyard, the faint metallic tang of copper tools from a distant workshop, and the ever-present scent of the Nile River, damp and green, that permeates every stone in Thebes. This is her playground, a playground of gods and kings, where the shadows are long and the history is deep. As she grows, the playtime in the shadows turns to lessons in the scriptorium. The air here is different. It is dry, smelling intensely of old papyrus and carbon ink. It is the smell of knowledge. She sits on a low stool, her posture straight, her young face set in a mask of concentration. Before her lies a sheet of fresh papyrus. It is cream-coloured, woven from the fibres of the river reed, slightly rough to the touch. In her hand she holds a reed brush. It is light, fragile. She dips it into the palette of black ink. The scribe, an old man with skin like crinkled parchment and eyes that have seen the reigns of 3 kings, guides her hand. He is teaching her sacred geometry. She learns that the world is not random. It is built upon mart. It is built upon order, balance, and proportion. She draws a line. It must be straight. It must be true. She learns that a temple is not just a pile of rocks. It is a mirror of the cosmos. The floor is the earth. The ceiling is the sky. The columns are the plants rising from the primeval mound. Every angle, every measurement has a meaning. To build is to pray. To design is to participate in the act of creation itself. Listen to the scratch of the reed pen on the papyrus. Scritch, scratch. It is a dry, whispering sound. She watches the black ink soak into the fibres, turning her thoughts into something permanent. She learns the mathematics of the flood, how to calculate the rise of the river, how to measure the fields after the waters recede, how to count the bushels of grain in the granaries. These are not just numbers. They are the weight of the crown. She begins to understand the burden that awaits her. It is a physical sensation, heavy like the gold collars she must wear on feast days. The history of her dynasty is a river that flows through her veins, demanding and powerful. She learns of the wars fought to secure these borders. She learns of the Hyksos, the foreign rulers her ancestors drove out. She learns that chaos is always waiting at the edges of the desert, waiting for a moment of weakness to rush back in. Sometimes the weight feels immense. She looks at the map of the 2 lands unrolled before her. The long, winding snake of the Nile, the delta spreading like a lotus flower in the north, the harsh cliffs of the south. All of this belongs to the pharaoh. All of this requires vigilance. She touches the uraeus, the cobra diadem that rests on the table. It is cold, heavy gold. The eyes of the snake are inlaid with lapis lazuli, dark and unblinking. It is the symbol of divine protection, but also of lethal power. She runs a finger over the smooth curve of the serpent's hood. One day, this will rest upon her brow. One day, she will be the one who maintains the balance. The lessons continue until the light begins to fail. The scribe rolls up the scrolls, the dry papyrus crackling softly. The sound is like dry leaves skittering across a stone floor. The ink is dry on her fingers, staining her skin with the mark of the trade. She walks out of the scriptorium and back into the colonnade. The sun is setting now, painting the limestone columns in shades of burning orange and deep violet. The shadows stretch out long and thin, reaching toward her. She stops and places her hand on a pillar once more. She is no longer just a child playing in the dark. She is the daughter of Amun. She feels the vibration of the stone, the solid, enduring strength of it. She squares her shoulders. The geometry of the temple is in her mind now, the perfection of the lines, the sanctity of the structure. She breathes in the cooling evening air, tasting the smoke of the cooking, fires and the moisture of the rising mist. She is ready to build. She is ready to rule. Death comes not as a stranger to the palace, but as a quiet, familiar guest who enters without knocking. The royal bedchamber is steeped in shadows. The heavy linen curtains have been drawn tight against the harsh glare of the midday sun, filtering the light into a dim amber haze that feels suspended in time. The air here is thick, pressing against the chest. It smells of sickness, yes, a faint metallic tang of copper and sweat, but that is masked by the overwhelming sweetness of burning resins. Myrrh and frankincense smoke curl from bronze braziers in the corners, thick grey ribbons that drift sluggishly toward the painted ceiling, weaving a shroud for the soul that is preparing to depart. Thutmose II lies upon his bed. The sheets are made of the finest linen, bleached to a blinding white, but they seem grey in this half-light. His breathing is the only sound in the room. It is a ragged, wet sound, a rasping struggle that catches in the throat. Listen closely. It is the sound of a spirit fighting to untangle itself from the heavy clay of the body. Each breath is labour. Each exhale is a surrender. Hatshepsut sits beside him. She is perfectly still, a statue carved from living obsidian and gold. Her hands are folded in her lap, cool and dry. She watches the rise and fall of his chest. Up, down, a long pause, then up again, weaker this time. She does not weep. Tears are for the chaotic world outside. Here, in the presence of the transition, there is only a solemn, profound waiting. The servants have retreated to the far walls, blending into the murals, their heads bowed, their presence erased. The physicians have put away their jars and their papyrus scrolls. There is no more medicine to be given. The time for potions and spells has passed. Now it is time for the weighing of the heart. The rasping stops. The silence that follows is sudden and absolute. It rushes into the room like a physical wave, filling the space where the breathing used to be. It is a deafening silence. The chest does not rise. The hand resting on the coverlet goes still. The spirit has flown, slipping out like a bird from a cage, journeying west toward the setting sun, toward the judgment of Osiris. Hatshepsut reaches out. Her fingers are steady. She touches his eyelids, closing them gently over the staring eyes. The skin is already cooling, losing that vital warmth, turning into the texture of wax. She feels the finality of it under her fingertips. The man is gone. The king is dead. The vessel is empty. For a long moment she remains there, in the quiet, breathing in the scent of the incense which now seems to mourn with her. She feels the shift in the universe. The anchor has been lifted. The throne is empty. A vacuum has opened in the centre of the world, and she can feel the winds of chaos beginning to swirl at the edges of the room, waiting for a weakness, waiting for a crack in the order of things. But she will not let the crack appear. She rises. The rustle of her dress is loud in the silence. She turns to the door, and her face is a mask of serene determination. The morning has begun, but so has the protection. The heir is a child, Thutmose III. He is a tender shoot, a sapling growing in the shadow of a great cedar. Imagine him standing in the vast hall of audience. He is so very small. The double crown of Upper and Lower Egypt is a massive, towering structure of red wicker and white felt, heavy with gold and history. It is placed upon his head, and you can see him wobble slightly under its weight. The Uraeus cobra on his brow seems larger than his own fist. His neck is thin, fragile like the stalk of a lotus flower. He sits upon the great block of the throne. His feet do not touch the ground. They dangle in the air, sandals swinging slightly, miles above the polished stone floor. He looks out at the sea of courtiers, at the priests, with their shaven heads and leopard skin robes, at the generals with their scars and bronze daggers. His eyes are wide, dark pools of uncertainty. He is a boy who should be playing with wooden toys in the nursery, chasing hoops in the garden, yet he is tasked with holding up the sky. The atmosphere is fraught with a delicate tension. The court watches. They are like a pack of wolves sensing a limp. A child king is a danger. A child king means weakness. Who will lead the armies? Who will negotiate with the vile princes of Retjenu? Who will keep the Nile rising? Then she steps forward. Hatshepsut moves to stand beside the throne. She does not sit on it, not yet. She stands just to the right, a half step behind, in the position of the guardian. She wears the white dress of a queen, simple and elegant, but her presence fills the hall. Feel the change in the air. It is as if a great wing has been spread over the child. The tension in the room dissipates, replaced by a sense of calm, solidity. She is the wall against which the wind breaks. She places a hand on the back of the throne, a possessive, protective gesture. Her fingers grip the gilded wood. She is the regent. The silence of the regency is different from the silence of death. This is a watchful silence. It is the silence of the hawk circling high above the canyon, eyes sharp, missing nothing. She speaks for him. Her voice is low, melodious, but it carries the unmistakable resonance of authority. When she speaks, the generals lower their eyes. When she gestures, the priests nod in agreement. She wraps the boy in a cocoon of safety. She absorbs the light, the heat, the pressure of the court, filtering it so that only what is necessary reaches him. She is the filter. She is the shield. To the outside world she presents a facade of absolute continuity. The king is young, she says with her bearing, but the blood of the gods is strong, and I am here to ensure it flows. You can sense the relief in the palace. It is a tactile thing, a loosening of shoulders, a deeper breathing. The chaos has been held back. The order, Ma'at, is preserved. The woman stands like a pillar of limestone, unshakable, and in her shadow the boy is safe. But as the months turn into years, the shadow begins to change shape. It is a slow transformation, gentle as the shifting of the tides. There is no singular moment of seizing, no violent grasping. It is a gradual dawning, a realization that blooms in the minds of the people just as it blooms in her own heart. Walk with her through the corridors of administration. It is late afternoon, and the slanting light turns the dust motes into suspended gold. She is reviewing the tax scrolls from the harvest. The scribes stand around her, awaiting her command. At first she was merely the great royal wife, the mother of the heir. But listen to how they address her now. The titles are lengthening. God's wife, mistress of the two lands. The words roll off their tongues with a new reverence. They do not look at the small boy playing with his bow in the courtyard. They look at her. She feels the change in her own body. The way she stands has altered. She no longer shrinks to fit the role of a consort. Her spine is straighter, her chin lifted. She walks with a stride that matches the length of the colonnades. The sceptre of command, the hekar, feels natural in her hand. It is not a heavy foreign object. It feels like an extension of her own arm, a limb she had forgotten she possessed. She looks into the polished copper mirror in her chambers. The reflection shows a woman. Yes, the kohl lines around her eyes are perfect. The wig is scented with beeswax and lilies. But the eyes themselves, the eyes are changing. They are becoming the eyes of a pharaoh. They hold a distant horizon-scanning gaze that looks beyond the immediate, beyond the domestic, into the eternal. She begins to wear the Neem's headcloth more often, the striped cloth of royalty. It frames her face, stripping away softness, emphasizing the strength of her jaw, the high arch of her cheekbones. It is a masculine garment, yet she wears it with a grace that transcends gender. She is not becoming a man. She is becoming something else, something encompassing both. The transition is felt in the rituals. When she offers wine to Amun in the temple, the god seems to lean closer to her. The smoke of the incense does not blow away. It wraps around her, claiming her. The priests see it. The people feel it. The duality of the regency, the mother and the child, is slowly fading. The two are merging into one force. It is a seduction of silence. She does not demand power. She simply embodies it so completely that to deny her would be to deny the sun its heat. The court adjusts around her, fluid as water. They stop asking, "What does the regent think?" and start asking, "What does the palace command?" She stands on the balcony of the palace looking out over the city of Thebes. The sun is setting, casting the world in a wash of deep crimson and purple. The river glows like molten copper. Beside her, the empty space where a king should stand is no longer empty. She has filled it. She has expanded into the vacuum. The gentle transition is complete. The queen has dissolved into the mist, and from that mist, something harder, brighter, and more eternal is beginning to take shape. The silence of the regency is ending. The voice of the pharaoh is about to speak. The day of the coronation does not begin with the sun. It begins with the sound of the earth shifting. Can you hear it? It is a low, subterranean vibration that hums through the limestone bedrock of the temple. It is the sound of 1,000 priests chanting in the pre-dawn darkness, their voices merged into a single droning note that resonates in the hollow of your chest. Om, Om. The sound is thick, like honey pouring from a jar, coating the walls, the floor, the very air itself. We are inside the robing room of the great temple. The air here is stiflingly hot, heavy with the scent of sacred oils. Imagine the smell of cedar wood, sharp and clean, mingled with the cloying sweetness of myrrh and the salty iron tang of anticipation. There are no windows here. The only light comes from oil lamps that sputter in the corners, casting long, wavering shadows that dance against the painted walls. She stands in the centre of the room, Hatshepsut. But the woman is disappearing. She is being encased, layer by layer, in the chrysalis of divinity. The robes are not the light, gauzy linens of the harem. These are the vestments of the horizon. Feel the weight of them. The inner tunic is made of linen so fine it is called woven air, yet there are so many layers that it presses against the skin with a substantial, comforting heaviness. Over this goes the great ceremonial robe. It is stiff with embroidery. Run your fingers over the fabric in your mind. You can feel the raised threads of gold wire, the rough bumps of semi-precious stones sewn into the hem, lapis lazuli for the night sky, carnelian for the blood of life, turquoise for the rising waters. She does not move. She cannot move. She is a statue being dressed by the hands of the high priests. Their hands are cold, dry, and efficient. They move around her in a circle, silent as ghosts. There is the rustle of stiff cloth, a sound like dry palm fronds rubbing together. Swish, swish. They place the broad collar around her neck. It is a massive thing, rows of heavy gold beads that cover her collarbones and weigh down upon her shoulders. It is cold at first, shocking against the warmth of her skin, but it quickly absorbs her heat. The weight is immense. It forces her to stand straighter, to brace her spine against the pull of the earth. To wear gold is to carry the flesh of the gods. It is a burden as much as it is a glory. The chanting outside grows louder. It penetrates the thick stone walls, a muffled roar like the ocean, crashing against a distant cliff. The world is waiting. The vacuum is crying out to be filled. Now the transformation must become absolute. The priests bring forward the symbols. These are not merely ornaments. They are tools of magic. They are the keys that unlock the gates between the mortal and the divine. First, the kilt, the shendit. It is the garment of a warrior, of a king who smites his enemies. It is starched to a board like stiffness. As they fasten it around her waist, she feels the restriction. It does not flow like a woman's dress. It binds. It creates a rigid, triangular silhouette. It erases the soft curve of the hip, replacing it with the geometry of power. She looks down. Her legs are bare beneath it, strong and planted firmly on the reed mat. Then, the beard. It lies in a box of ebony, lined with velvet. The false beard of the gods. It is made of braided gold, curved slightly at the tip, like the beard of a god in the afterlife. The priest lifts it with trembling reverence. He approaches her face. She lifts her chin. The strap is leather, tough and unyielding. He ties it behind her ears tight. Feel the sensation of it. The strap cuts slightly into the tender skin behind the ear. The wooden block of the beard rests heavy against her chin. It restricts her jaw. She cannot speak freely now. She cannot chatter or gossip. She can only pronounce judgments. The mask is taking hold. When she looks in the polished bronze mirror held up by a servant, she does not see a woman's face. She sees the angular, stylized visage of a pharaoh. The beard elongates her face, giving it the terrible gravity of a statue. Finally, the crown. The room seems to hold its breath. The double crown, the Shent, the red crown of the north with its high curl, nesting inside the white crown of the south, the tall, bulbous mitre. It is huge, it is absurdly tall. It is a tower of wicker, felt, and gold. The high priest raises it high. In the flickering lamplight it casts a shadow that stretches across the entire room, a shadow that looks like the head of a giant. He lowers it. She braces her neck. She locks her knees. The crown descends. It settles onto her brow with a dull thud that echoes in her skull. The weight is shocking. It pushes down on the top of her head, compressing her spine. It is a physical manifestation of the two lands, the weight of the delta, the weight of the valley, the millions of souls, the floods, the droughts, the wars, all of it resting on a single human brow. The leather band inside the crown grips her forehead. It is tight, sealing her thoughts inside. Her peripheral vision is cut off by the lappets of the Neem's headcloth worn beneath it. She can only see forward. She can only see the path of the sun. There is no looking back. There is no looking to the side. There is only the eternal straight line of Mart. The dressing is complete. The woman is gone. Standing in the center of the room, glittering in the gloom, is a being of gold and geometry. The heavy cedar doors of the temple groan open. Light, blinding white absolute light strikes her. It is noon. The sun is at its zenith. Ra is watching. She steps out of the shadows of the robing room and into the vast, sun-drenched courtyard. The heat hits her like a physical blow, a wall of dry fire. The gold on her body instantly catches the sun. She ignites. To the thousands of people gathered in the outer courts, she must look like a piece of the sun itself has broken off and fallen to earth. She is dazzling, painful to look at. A roar goes up from the crowd. It is not a cheer. It is a primal sound, a mixture of awe and terror. They are in the presence of a god. She walks. Her sandals slap against the hot stone pavement. Slap, slap. Each step is measured, slow, deliberate. The heavy robes sway with a hypnotic rhythm. She does not look left or right. Her eyes are fixed on the horizon. The high priest steps forward, his voice amplified by the acoustics of the horn. Stone walls. He proclaims the title. He speaks the names that will echo through the centuries. Her Majesty, the King. He does not say Queen. The word dissolves in the heat. King of Upper and Lower Egypt, and then the new name, the name that rewrites reality. Mart Ka Re. Let us taste these syllables. Mart, truth, harmony, the cosmic order that keeps the stars moving and the river flowing. Ka, the soul, the vital spark, the double that lives on. Re, the sun, the creator, the father of all, Matkare. Truth is the soul of the sun. As the name is spoken, she feels it settle into her bones. It is heavier than the crown, yet lighter than air. It is a vibration that matches the frequency of her own blood. She is no longer Hatshepsut, the foremost of noble ladies. That was a name for a mortal woman. Matkare is a concept. Matkare is a force of nature. She reaches the dais and turns to face the multitude. The glare of the sun reflects off her gold breastplate, sending beams of light shooting into the crowd. She raises the crook and the flail, the shepherd's tools, crossing them over her chest. The metal is hot against her arms. At this moment, the metamorphosis is absolute. The silence inside her is vast and cool, a stark contrast to the noise and heat outside. She looks out through the eyes of the Sphinx. She feels the current of the Nile flowing not just through the valley, but through her own body. She is the river, she is the bank, she is the sun that warms the mud. She stands there, frozen in time, a golden idol breathing the air of mortals. The regency of silence is over. The era of the Sun King has begun, and as the priests bow their heads to the floor, scraping their foreheads against the stone, the woman who was Hatshepsut closes her eyes for a fleeting second, and in the darkness behind her eyelids she smiles, not a human smile, but the inscrutable, eternal smile of a statue that knows it will last forever. The command does not come as a shout from the mountaintop. It arrives as a longing, a deep, persistent ache in the soul that feels like a memory of a place you have never been. We are back in the sanctuary, in the cool stone heart of Karnak. But the air here feels stagnant. The incense that burns in the golden bowls is precious, yes, but it is old. It is the dust of withered resin, scraped from the bottom of jars that have sat in the treasury for too long. Amun is hungry. God is not satisfied with the scraps of the past. He demands the fresh, living blood of the earth. He speaks to Matkare in stillness. He whispers of a land that lies to the south, far beyond the reach of the river, far beyond the maps of the scribes. God's land. Punt. Close your eyes and let the vision wash over you. It creates a landscape in the mind more vivid than the stone walls around us. Imagine a place where the mountains are not bare rock but are clothed in green. Terraces rise from the sea, lush and verdant, dripping with moisture. The air there is not dry and dusty like Thebes. It is heavy, sweet, and humid. It is an air that you can taste, and the scent. It is the scent of the divine. Pure, unadulterated myrrh. Not the dry pellets we burn here, but the living sap. Picture the trees, their bark gnarled and silver, weeping tears of amber resin. The tears are warm, sticky and fragrant. They smell of earth and honey, of lemon and pine, a complex perfume that intoxicates the senses. Amun whispers that he wants these trees. He does not want just the resin. He wants the source. He wants the roots. He wants to walk in a garden of his own creation, right here in Thebes. The vision expands. You see heaps of gold dust, fine and soft as flour. You see raw ivory, the great tusks of elephants, cool and smooth to the touch. You see skins of panthers and leopards, their fur soft as clouds, patterned with the shadows of the southern forests. You see living giraffes, strange and silent giants, walking with a swaying grace. It is sir, dream of abundance. It is a dream of the exotic. The walls of the temple seem to dissolve, replaced by the endless shimmering horizon of the south. The longing becomes a physical pull, a magnetic force that drags the heart toward the Red Sea. God has spoken. The destination is set. The impossible must now be built. We leave the vision and travel east. We cross the harsh, baking gravel of the eastern desert, a journey of thirst and dust, until the air changes. Taste the salt. We are standing on the shores of the Red Sea. The water here is not the brown, benevolent soup of the Nile. It is a brilliant, shocking turquoise, clear as glass, deepening to a bruised purple in the distance. The air is sharp, briny, coating your skin in a fine, sticky layer of salt. It is a wilder place. The wind does not whisper here. It hisses over the white caps. But look at the shore. The silence of the coast is broken by the symphony of creation. We are in the shipyard. This is where the vision takes form. In wooden rope, they are building the Byblos ships, the great vessels capable of surviving the open ocean. These are not the flat-bottomed barges of the river. These are deep-hulled leviathans designed to ride the waves of the great green. Listen to the sounds of the work. It is a rhythmic, percussive music. Thwack, thwack, thwack. That is the sound of the copper adze striking cedar wood. The wood has been brought all the way from the mountains of Lebanon, smelling of sharp, clean resin and high altitudes. It is a foreign smell here on the hot beach, a cool memory of the north trapped in the grain. The carpenters are master craftsmen. Watch their hands. They are rough, calloused, stained dark with oil and pitch. They run their palms over the cedar planks, feeling for imperfections. The wood must be smooth. It must be true. They do not use iron nails, iron rusts, iron breaks. They use the strength of the earth itself. They use joints. Listen to the soft, heavy thud of the mallet, driving the wooden tenons into the mortices. Wood biting into wood. It is a tight, groaning fit. The hull is a puzzle, pieced together with infinite patience. But the true strength lies in the rope, miles of thick, heavy rope made from halfa grass. Smell the grass, dry and sweet, mingled with the smell of the sea. The shipwrights are sewing the ship together. They thread the thick cables through channels cut into the wood, lashing the planks tight. Creak, pull, creak, pull. You can hear the strain in the fibers. The ropes sing with tension. When these ropes get wet, they will shrink, pulling the timber even tighter, making the hull one solid living thing. The air is thick with the smell of heated pitch and beeswax. It is a black, acrid, heavy smell that catches in the back of your throat. They are caulking the seams, sealing the vessel against the hungry water. The hot mixture bubbles in iron pots over open fires. The men smear it into the cracks with wooden spatulas. It sizzles as heat. It touches the wood. It seals the secrets of the ship inside. Walk beneath the hull. It towers above you, a curved belly of cedar that blocks out the sun. It is cool in the shadow of the ship. You can feel the latent power in it. It is a sleeping beast, waiting to be woken by the water. The wood is silent now, but it holds the memory of the wind in the Lebanon mountains, and soon it will learn the language of the southern waves. The day of departure arrives. 5 great ships sit in the water. They bob gently, restless, tugging at their moorings. The water laps against the wood with a hungry, slapping sound. Lap, lap, lap. The loading is done. The jars of water, the sacks of grain, the trade goods for the chiefs of Punt, beads of glass, daggers of bronze, fine linen from the temple workshops, all stowed deep in the belly of the wood. The sailors take their places. These are not river men. These are the chosen few who do not fear the horizon. Their skin is weathered to the colour of old, mahogany cured by the sun and the salt. They sit on the benches, their hands gripping the polished wood of the oars. The command is given. The ropes are cast off. They fall into the water with a heavy splash, and then the rhythm begins. Heave. 30 oars on each side strike the water as one. The sound is a singular deep whoosh followed by the swirl of the eddy. Heave. The ship shudders and moves. It feels heavy at first, reluctant to leave the safety of the land. But then the momentum takes hold. The water hisses along the side of the hull. The timber groans, a low musical creaking that will be the background song of their lives for the next few months. They row out past the shallows, past the coral reefs that glow like submerged jewels under the surface. The turquoise water gives way to the deep, terrifying indigo of the open sea. Now, the captain looks to the sky. He signals. It is time for the sail. Watch the great linen sail unfurl. It is a massive square of white cloth, heavy and stiff. The sailors haul on the halyards. Heave ho, heave ho. The wood of the mast complains under the weight. The yard arm rises inch by inch until it hangs high above the deck. Then the wind catches it. Whoomp. The canvas snaps taut. It bellies out, curved and hard as stone under the pressure of the north wind. The ship leaps forward. The rhythmic splashing of the oars stops. The rowers ship their oars, sliding them inside the hull with a clatter of wood on wood. Now there is only the sound of the wind and the water. The wind sings in the rigging, a high, thin whistle that vibrates through the ropes. The bow cuts through the waves, throwing up a spray of white foam that glitters like diamonds in the sun. The spray hits your face, cool and refreshing, washing away the dust of the land. You are floating on the back of the great unknown. The coastline of Egypt begins to fade, turning into a thin haze of brown against the blue sky. Ahead, there is only the shimmering heat, the dancing light on the waves and the promise of God's land. The ship rocks with a gentle, lulling motion, up and down, up and down. It is a hypnotic rhythm, older than the pyramids, older than the throne. It is the heartbeat of the ocean. The crew settles into the silence of the voyage. There is no chatter now, only the creak of the cedar, the hiss of the wake, and the vast blue silence of the world stretching out to the end of time. They are sailing into the myth. They are sailing to fetch the morning. The transition is not sudden, but it is absolute. For weeks there has been only the hard blue duality of the world, the sky above, the sea below, separated by the razor-thin line of the horizon. The air has been crisp, salty, and relentlessly dry, scouring the skin and preserving the wood of the ships. But now the wind changes. Close your eyes and inhale. The salt is gone. In its place comes a wall of scent so thick, so rich, it feels like walking into a room hung with heavy, velvet curtains. It is the smell of life in overdrive. It smells of wet earth, of rotting leaves fermenting in the heat, of flowers that bloom and die in the span of a single hour. It smells of cinnamon bark peeling in the sun, of crushed ginger, of resin bleeding from wounded wood. It is a sweet, heavy, cloying perfume that coats the back of your throat. The humidity wraps around you like a warm, wet blanket. The air here is water. It clings to your skin, turning the dust of the voyage into streaks of mud. It makes the linen of your tunic heavy and damp. It softens the leather of your sandals. You are breathing in a greenhouse. Open your eyes. The world has turned green. This is not the orderly agricultural green of the Nile Valley, tamed by canals and ploughs. This is a chaotic, riotous green. Trees explode from the earth, their roots tangled like snakes, their canopies weaving together to blot out the sun. Vines hang like curtains, thick as a man's arm. Ferns unfurl fronds that are taller than the ships. And the sounds, the silence of the desert is a memory. Here the air screams. Listen to the chattering. High-pitched rapid fire shrieks echo from the canopy. Monkeys. They are flashes of grey and gold swinging through the leaves, watching the strangers with bright, curious eyes. Birds with feathers of impossible blue and crimson call to one another, sharp, piercing whistles and deep, throaty trills. It is a cacophony, a constant, throbbing pulse of noise that vibrates in your chest. The ships glide toward the shore, moving slowly through the mangrove roots that stand like stilts in the water. The water here is dark, stained by the tannins of the roots, smelling of peat and mud. The keels slide into the soft bottom with a wet, sucking sound. Shh, clump. They have arrived. This is God's land. On the shore the people of Punt are waiting. Their houses are strange to Egyptian eyes. Beehive-shaped huts built on raised platforms, hovering above the wet ground, accessible only by ladders. The people are tall, their skin dark and gleaming with palm oil. They watch with open hands. There is no war here. There is only wonder. The gangplanks are lowered. The wood thuds into the mud. The trade begins. Imagine the contrast of the exchange. On one side, the precision of Egypt. On the other, the wild bounty of the south. The Egyptians bring out their goods. Feel the coolness of the metal. Weapons of bronze, the edges polished and sharp. They are heavy, solid, cold to the touch. They bring out jewelry. Necklaces of faience beads, blue and green, smooth as glass, clinking softly together like ice. And the gold. It is brought out in rings and in small linen sacks of dust. The gold of the eastern desert, washed and weighed. It is heavy, dense and eternal. When poured onto the weighing scales, it makes a soft, rushing sound, like sand sliding down a dune. Shh! It catches the filtered sunlight, gleaming with that peculiar buttery warmth that drives men mad. The chief of Punt, Parahu, runs his fingers over a dagger. He tests the weight. He nods. In return, the wealth of the forest is brought forward. This is not a trade of cold metal for cold metal. This is a trade of the inorganic for the organic. First, the ivory. Great tusks of elephants are laid on the mats. Run your hand along one. It is incredibly smooth, cool and heavy, with a creamy, pale grain that looks like moonlight frozen into bone. Then the skins. Leopard pelts, soft as a whisper. The fur is deep and plush. If you bury your fingers in it, you can feel the warmth of the animal that once wore it. But the true prize, the heart of the trade, is the incense. They bring baskets of raw myrrh resin. It looks like tears of amber and blood. Pick up a piece. It is sticky. The heat of your hand melts it slightly, releasing a burst of fragrance that makes your head swim. It is spicy, bitter, sweet, and piney all at once. It sticks to your fingers, marking you. It is the blood of the god, harvested from the bark. But Matkare did not ask only for the tears. She asked for the eyes. She asked for the source. The moment has come. The soldiers put down their spears and pick up their shovels. They move to the groves where the myrrh trees grow. These are not majestic giants like the cedars. They are gnarled, twisted, thorny things, scrubby and resilient. Their bark is silver and peeling like paper. The digging must be gentle. This is surgery, not excavation. Listen to the sound of the shovel slicing into the foreign earth. Crunch, slide. The soil here is red and loamy, bound together by a web of fine root hairs. They must not cut the taproot. They must preserve the ball of earth that cradles the life of the tree. The sailors work with a tenderness usually reserved for children. They pant in the humidity, the sweat running down their backs, stinging their eyes. The smell of the disturbed earth is powerful, a dark, mushroomy scent of ancient decay and new growth. They wrap the root balls in wet sacking and woven baskets. The rope is pulled tight, securing the soil. Creak, tie. Now comes the procession. It is a sight that has never been seen before. A forest is walking toward the sea. 31 living trees are carried onto the ships. Feel the weight of them. A tree is heavy. It is dense with sap and water. The men groan under the load, their feet sinking into the gangplanks. They carry them up onto the decks, arranging them in rows. The smell of the ship changes instantly. The clean, tarry smell of the cedar hull is overwhelmed by the smell of the jungle. The deck becomes a garden. Leaves brush against the rigging. Thorns snag on the linen sails. The crew moves around the trees with reverence. They water them with fresh water stored in jars, a precious sacrifice on a sea voyage. The water splashes onto the leaves, dripping down to the root baskets with a soft patter-patter. Can you see it? The ships are no longer just vessels of wood. They are floating islands. They are arcs of green, carrying the essence of the south across the water. The sun begins to set over the hills of Punt, casting long shadows through the trees on the deck. The light turns the leaves to silhouettes of gold and black. The monkeys in the distant canopy scream their goodbyes. The lines are cast off. The ships turn their prows north toward the cool, dry winds of home. But they are not the same ships that arrived. They are heavier now. They sit lower in the water. They carry the weight of God's desire. The wind catches the sail. The trees on the deck rustle, their leaves shaking in the breeze. Hush, hush. It is the sound of the forest learning to speak the language of the sea. As the coast of Punt fades into the purple twilight, the scent of myrrh lingers on the deck, a ghost of the garden that is coming to Thebes. The impossible has been done. The roots are safe. God's land is coming home. The journey ends, but the work is only just beginning. We leave the rocking decks of the ships and return to the solid, unyielding earth of Thebes. But we do not go to the palaces of the living on the east bank. We cross the river. We go west, to the land of the setting sun, to the realm of silence. Here the world is made of two things only, blue sky and red stone. Meet the man who stands at the base of the great cliff. Senenmut. Look at him. He does not wear the gold of a prince nor the leopard skin of a high priest. He wears the simple, fine linen of a scribe, but his hands are the hands of a man who knows the weight of a stone block. They are broad, capable hands, dusted with the fine, white powder of limestone. He is not a man of flowery words. He is a man of angles. He is a man of loads and thrusts, of foundations and axis lines. While others see the mountain as a barrier, he sees it as a canvas. He stands alone in the great bay of Deir el-Bahari. The cliffs here rise up sheer and vertical, a wall of jagged rock that scrapes the belly of the sky. It is a terrifying place. The mountain looms over you, immense and crushing, glowing a deep, burning orange in the afternoon sun. It feels as if the rock is leaning forward, waiting to bury anything small enough to challenge it. But Senenmut does not shrink. He tilts his head back. He squints against the glare. He is listening to the mountain. He is calculating. He knows that he cannot compete with this. No man can build a mountain. If he tries to build a pyramid here, it will look like a child's toy against the vastness of the natural rock. If he builds a fortress, the cliff will swallow it. So he decides to do something else. He decides to echo the stone. Come with me into his workspace. It is a small mud brick structure, cool and dark, away from the biting wind. The air smells of dry papyrus and carbon ink. On the table lies a grid. He dips his reed pen. Scritch, scritch. Watch the design emerge. It is not a box. It is a ladder. He draws a horizontal line, then another above it, then another. Terraces. He is designing a temple that breathes, a temple that steps up the slope, rising floor by floor, lifting the worshipper from the dust of the valley toward the sanctuary in the rock. He closes his eyes and visualizes the geometry. It must be pure. It must be absolute. The chaos of the cliff face is full of random cracks, jagged edges, and tumbling scree. To answer it, he needs mart. He needs order. He envisions a colonnade, not round columns that mimic trees, but square pillars, faceted, sharp, clean. He draws them in a long rhythmic row, vertical lines of white limestone standing at attention, light, shadow, light, shadow, a barcode of stone against the chaos of the mountain. The concept is a paradox. It is a structure that stands out by blending in. It is a mirror held up to nature, but a mirror that reflects only perfection. Now, fast forward. The dream becomes rock. The construction site is a symphony of organized effort. The air is thick with white dust that coats the eyelashes and tastes like chalk. It is a dry, thirsty taste. You can hear the chipping of copper chisels, a constant tink, 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 like a shower of metallic rain. You can hear the chanting of the workmen as they haul the sledges. Heave, pause, heave, pause. The ramp rises. It cuts through the center of the structure, a wide, sweeping causeway that invites the soul to climb. Senenmut watches the stone arrive. It is limestone from Tura, the finest in the world. It is not just white, it is blinding. In the sun, it glows with an inner luminescence brilliant as snow. When you touch it, it is smooth, polished to the texture of eggshell. It is cool, defying the heat of the sun. He places this white purity against the rugged, weathered orange of the cliff. Look at the contrast. It is the most violent and beautiful thing in Thebes. The cliff is rough, ancient, tortured by wind and time, full of deep, bruised shadows. The temple is young, smooth, mathematical, untouched. The cliff is the work of the wild gods. The temple is the work of the rational mind. They lock together. The vertical lines of the colonnades pick up the vertical fissures in the rock face above, drawing the eye upward, knitting the building into the mountain. The horizontal terraces mimic the layers of geological strata. The temple does not sit on the land, it grows out of it. Stand on the second terrace. The heat radiating from the cliff face is immense, a physical pressure against your back. But here, amidst the columns, there is a rhythmic peace. The shadows are sharp geometric shapes that slice across the floor. The silence of the stone absorbs the noise of the world. Senenmut runs his hand along a square pillar. He checks the edge. It is razor sharp. It cuts the light perfectly. He knows that he has created a masterpiece. He has built a throne for his queen that will last as long as the mountain itself. This is Djeser-Djeseru, the holiest of holies. It is not a tomb, it is a statement. It says that the mind of man and the will of a woman can impose order upon the wildest earth. It is a marriage of geometry and geology. As the sun begins to set, the white limestone turns to gold, then to violet, fading into the shadow of the cliff. The temple disappears, swallowed by the mountain, only to be reborn again with the next sunrise. Senenmut stands in the growing dark, his hands covered in white dust, and listens to the wind howling through the columns. He has built a stairway to the gods, and he has done it with silence, stone, and the perfect line. The year turns, the Nile swells, and the time of renewal is upon us. It is the month of Pauphi. It is the time of Opet. We begin at the great gates of Karnak. The sun is already high, beating down on the sandstone pylons with a fierce, possessive heat. But today the heat does not oppress, it sanctifies. The air is trembling, vibrating with a tension that is thicker than the dust. The heavy cedar doors groan open, a sound of deep timber complaining against stone, and then from the cool, incense-choked darkness of the sanctuary God emerges. Behold the bark of Amun. It is a boat, but it is not meant for the water. It is meant to sail upon the shoulders of men. It is carved from cedar of Lebanon, draped in gold leaf that is so pure, so bright, it hurts the eyes to look upon it directly. It captures the sun and throws it back with a blinding intensity. At the prow and the stern, the golden heads of rams gaze out with serene, unblinking eyes, wearing the sun disk upon their brows. Underneath the carrying poles, 30 priests stagger slightly as they take the weight. Look at them. Their heads are shaved smooth, gleaming with sweat and oil. Their white linen robes are pristine, starched, stiff, rustling softly as they move. Swish, swish, they step in perfect unison. It is a slow, rolling gait designed to keep God steady. You can hear the rhythmic slap of their bare feet on the stone causeway. Slap, slap, slap. You can hear the heavy breathing, the soft grunts of exertion that are swallowed by the chanting. The wooden poles creak against their shoulders. It is a heavy burden, this carrying of the divine, a physical weight that presses the spirit into the flesh. Surrounding the bark are the fan bearers. They hold great fans of ostrich feathers on long poles. The feathers are white and fluffy, moving gently in the still air, casting flickering, dappled shadows over the golden shrine. It creates a dreamlike effect, a play of light and dark that makes the solid gold seem to ripple like water. The scent of the procession hits you before the sound. It is a wave of burning chi-fi, billowing from censers held by priests who walk backward, facing God. The blue smoke curls around the ram heads, veiling them in a mist of cinnamon and honey. It is a sweet, narcotic cloud that separates the holy procession from the profane world. They move down the avenue of their sphinxes, heading toward the river. God is leaving his house. The god is going to Luxor, to the southern Opet, to be reborn. At the water's edge, the great river barge, the User-Het, is waiting. It is a floating palace covered in gold and electrum. The portable bark is placed inside the cabin of the barge. The timber settles into the water with a deep, resonant groan. Now, listen. The silence of the sanctuary is broken. From the banks, a sound rises like a flock of birds taking flight. It is the sound of joy. It is the music of the people. The sistrums begin. Shh, clack, shh, clack. It is a metallic, rattling sound, like rain falling on dry leaves. It is the sound of Hathor, the Lady of Joy, shaking away the evil spirits. It cuts through the heavy, humid air, sharp and cleansing. Drums join in. Hand drums, their skins tight and dry, beat out a pulse that matches the heartbeat of the river. Dum, dum-to-dum, dum. Flutes of river reed weave a high, wandering melody through the rhythm. It is a breathy, organic sound like the wind sighing through the papyrus beds. The river is choked with boats, fishermen's skiffs, merchant vessels, royal barges. They jostle for space, their oars splashing in the brown water. The surface of the Nile is covered in flowers, blue lotus, white lotus, garlands of wilted olive leaves thrown by the crowds. The water is no longer water. It is a carpet of petals, bruising and releasing their faint green perfume as the boats cut through them. On the banks, the people of Thebes are a sea of white linen and brown skin. From where we stand, on the deck of the royal barge, they are a blur of motion. We do not hear individual voices. We hear a low, continuous roar, a wall of sound that rolls over the water. It is a happy sound. It is the sound of a people who know that Mart is in place, that the flood will come, that the king is strong. Women dance with acrobatic grace, their hair weighted with balls of mud and gold, swinging as they turn. Men clap their hands, a sharp, percussive accompaniment to the sistrums. Soldiers march, their shields clattering against their knees. It is a sensory overload, a riot of colour and noise that celebrates the very fact of being alive in the Black Land. The barge is towed upstream against the current by smaller boats and by men on the shore hauling on long ropes. It moves slowly, majestically. The golden cabin reflects in the water, doubling the glory. The king, Matkara stands at the prow. She burns incense to the god. She is the bridge. In this moment, amidst the music and the shouting, she is the stillness at the centre of the turning wheel. The day wears on. The sun begins its descent, turning the Nile from brown to purple. The heat breaks. The noise of the sistrums fades, replaced by the softer sounds of the evening. We are at the Temple of Luxor now. The rituals are done. The secret marriage of the king and the god has taken place in the deep shadows of the sanctuary. The batteries of the universe have been recharged. Night falls over Thebes. It is a deep, velvety night, free of the haze of the day. Look up. The sky is a vast bowl of obsidian scattered with diamonds. The stars are so bright, so close, they look like lamps hanging from the ceiling of the world. You can see the Milky Way, the celestial Nile stretching across the heavens, mirroring the river below. The Nut, the sky goddess, arches her body over the earth, swallowing the sun to give birth to it again in the morning. The air is cool now. It touches your skin with a dry, gentle hand. It carries new scents. The smell of incense has faded, replaced by the smell of the feast. Roast duck, garlic, onions, fresh bread baking in clay ovens, the smell of beer, yeasty and sour, spilling onto the ground. Torches line the processional way. Their flames flicker in the night breeze, casting dancing reflections on the water. The city is not asleep. It murmurs with the contentment of a feast. Laughter drifts. Across the water, soft and distant, a dog barks. A child cries and is hushed. But here, in the shadow of the great columns, there is peace. The stone retains the warmth of the day, radiating it back into the night. You can lean against a pillar and feel the heat of the sun still living in the rock. The festival of Opet is a promise kept. The cycle continues. The king is divine. God is present. And under the watchful gaze of the million stars, Thebes breathes a sigh of profound relief, resting in the palm of eternity. There is a specific kind of silence that descends upon a land when the drums of war have been put away. It is not an empty silence. It is a silence that allows other, softer sounds to finally be heard. For 20 years the banks of the Nile do not shake with the marching of soldiers. The bronze Kopesh swords, curved and vicious, hang on the walls of the armories, gathering a fine layer of dust. The war chariots, those terrible machines of noise and speed, stand, silent in the stables, their wheels unmoving. The horses graze in the clover, fat and content, their coats gleaming in the sun, knowing no whip, only the brush of the groom. Listen to the sound of the era. It is not the clash of metal on shield. It is the wet, rhythmic slap of clay on the potter's wheel. Slap, whir, slap. It is the gentle scratching of the scribe's reed pen on fresh papyrus, recording not the count of the dead, but the count of the harvest. Sacks of emmer wheat, jars of golden oil, herds of long-horned cattle that stretch from one horizon to the other. Walk with me into the workshops of the artisans. The air here is thick with the dust of creation, a dry, chalky powder that catches in the shafts of sunlight. It smells of cedar shavings and heated beeswax. Here, peace is being forged into beauty. A master goldsmith is leaning over his workbench. He holds a tiny pair of tweezers. He is setting a piece of turquoise into a pectoral necklace. The stone is the colour of the mid-morning sky. He places it with infinite care. Click. It fits perfectly into the gold cloisonne. There is no hurry. There is no fear that the enemy is at the gates. There is only the time to make things perfect. The art of this time softens. Look at the statues. The faces are no longer the hard, grim masks of warrior kings. They are smooth, smiling, almost feminine in their grace. The eyes of the statues are wide and lined with kohl, gazing out at a world that is safe. The bodies are supple, carved from grey granite and red quartzite, polished until they glow like living skin. Abundance flows through the streets of Thebes like the river itself. The granaries are full. You can smell the yeast of the bread baking in 1,000 ovens. It is a warm, comforting scent that hangs over the city, a promise that no one will go hungry tonight. The marketplaces are a riot of colour. Baskets of purple figs, piles of green pomegranates, heaps of onions with their papery golden skins. This is the Pax Egyptiaca. It is a time when a child can be born in the Delta and grow to old age without ever seeing a burning village. It is a stability so profound that it feels like the earth itself has ceased to tremble. The land breathes out a long, slow exhalation of relief, and in that breath, flowers bloom. But amidst this softness, there is a need to touch the sky, to mark the earth with something that will never fade. Let us return to Karnak. We must crane our necks now. We must look up and up and up until we are dizzy with the height of it. Standing before us are the great obelisks. They are made of single blocks of pink granite, quarried from the distant cliffs of Aswan. Feel the stone. It is not like limestone, it is hard, crystalline, cold to the touch. It is filled with tiny flecks of quartz and feldspar that glitter when you move your head. It is the hardest bone of the earth, dragged hundreds of miles by sheer will and water to stand here in the house of the god. These are not just stones, they are frozen rays of sunlight. Hatshepsut has commanded them to pierce the firmament. They rise perfectly straight, tapering ever so slightly as they climb. The geometry is relentless. 4 flat sides, sharp corners, rising to a point that seems to scrape the belly of the sky. But look at the top, the pyramidion, the capstone. It is covered in electrum, an alloy of gold and silver. It is the metal of the gods. When the sun rises in the east, before the rays hit the temple walls, before they touch the city streets, they strike the tips of these obelisks. Flash. A blinding white fire ignites at the summit. It is too bright to look at. It is a beacon, a lighthouse of the divine in the sea of the morning. The light slides down the granite shaft, illuminating the hieroglyphs carved deep into the stone. The inscription is not a boast of war. It is a whisper of love. I have done this from a loving heart for my father Ammon. Imagine standing in their shadow at noon. The shadow is short, sharp, and cool. The air around the base of the obelisks hums with heat, but the stone remains aloof. You can feel the sheer mass of it, the thousands of tons of rock balancing on a mere square of earth. It creates a sense of awe that vibrates in the chest. It is a connection between the soil and the stars, a lightning rod for prayers. They dominate the skyline. From anywhere in Thebes, if you look toward the temple, you see them. 2 fingers of pink granite pointing to the heavens, crowned with fire. They are proof of her power. Only a ruler blessed by the gods could raise such mountains. They are her shout to eternity, frozen in stone. And now let us leave the blinding glare of the monuments. Let us retreat to the private world of the one who built them. It is late afternoon. The heat of the day is beginning to break, and the shadows are lengthening in the palace gardens. We are in the private quarters of the pharaoh. The walls here are painted with scenes of marshes and birds, bringing the outside in. The floor is covered in woven reed mats that feel cool and textured under bare feet. Matkare is at rest. She sits on a low chair made of ebony and ivory. The heavy double crown has been taken off. It rests on a stand in the corner, a silent, imposing object. The false beard is in its box. The heavy gold collars have been unclasped. She wears a simple gown of the finest sheer linen. It is white, translucent, and light as a cobweb. It moves with the slightest breeze. Her skin, rubbed with oils of lily and cedar, gleams in the soft light. She holds a cup of alabaster in her hand. It is filled with wine from the delta, cool and sweet. She takes a sip. The liquid is refreshing, washing away the dust of the audience chamber. The garden outside is quiet. A rectangular pool of water lies in the centre, surrounded by sycamore fig trees. The water is still, a dark mirror reflecting the first stars appearing in the violet sky. Occasionally, a fish breaks the surface, sending quiet ripples spreading outward. She watches the ripples. Her mind is not on the taxes of the north or the trade routes of the south. Her mind is still. There is a profound loneliness in power, but here in the garden it is a companionable solitude. She listens to the wind rustling the leaves of the persea tree. Hush, hush. It sounds like the whispering of the ancestors. A servant approaches, silent as a shadow, and places a tray of fruit on a low table. Grapes, dark and chilled. Dates, sticky and sweet. The servant bows and retreats, leaving the king alone again. She reaches out and touches a lotus flower floating in a bowl of water near her chair. The petals are cool, waxy and soft. She traces the curve of the flower. It opens with the sun and closes with the night. It knows its rhythm. She leans back, her eyes close. The tension in her shoulders, the perpetual brace against the weight of the world, finally releases. For this hour, she is not the king of Upper and Lower Egypt. She is not the daughter of Amun. She is simply a soul suspended in a moment of perfect balance. The scent of jasmine begins to rise from the garden as the evening cools. It is a sweet, heady perfume that signals the end of the day. This is the true luxury of the era. Not the gold, not the granite, not the ships. It is this moment of quiet, the ability to sit in a garden under a safe sky with a cup of wine and know that the world is in order. Maat is satisfied, the cycle holds, and in the deepening twilight the pharaoh breathes, and the land breathes with her. Even the sun must eventually touch the western horizon. It is a universal law, as immutable as the rising of the Nile or the turning of the stars. Nothing in the world of the living is meant to last forever in its current form. The clay brick crumbles back into mud. The flower wilts and drops its seeds. The body, no matter how divine, eventually grows heavy with the weight of its own existence. Time does not run, it drifts. It accumulates like the fine golden sand that piles up against the outer walls of the temple. Matkare sits in the palace of Malkata. The air in the room is still, filled with the dust of late afternoon. She looks at her hands. They are no longer the smooth, strong hands that grasped the bow or held the flail. The skin is thin now, translucent like old papyrus held up to a lamp. You can see the map of blue veins beneath the surface, a river system of her own lifeblood that has flowed for so many seasons. Her joints ache with a dull, dry throb, a reminder of the damp winters and the long hours standing on stone floors. The gold bracelets on her wrists feel loose. She has shrunk just a little, as if the spirit inside is slowly consuming the vessel, preparing to break free. There is a melancholy in this room, but it is not a sad melancholy. It is the peaceful, quiet resignation of the harvest. The grain has been gathered, the silos are full, the work is done. She listens to the sounds of the palace. They seem distant now, muffled, as if she is hearing them through a heavy curtain. The laughter of the young scribes, the clatter of the kitchen, the barking of dogs. These belong to the new generation. They belong to Thutmose III, the man who has waited in the wings, growing strong like an oak tree while she held the sun. She does not resent the setting sun. She welcomes the cool of the coming evening. She feels a profound tiredness, a heaviness in the eyelids that promises a sleep deeper than any she has known before. The world is becoming soft around the edges. The bright, harsh colours of the noon are fading into the gentle sepias and greys of twilight. It is time to let go of the oar. It is time to let the current take her. But before the eyes close, she looks once more toward the west, toward the cliff. There, carved into the living rock of the mountain, her legacy stands. Djeser-Djeseru, the temple of Der-El, Bahari. It glows in the dying light, a miracle of order against the chaos of the cliff. She knows, with the deep intuition of a ruler, that there will be those who wish to forget. History is a jealous scribe, and men do not like to remember that a woman once wore the beard of the god. She can foresee the chisels. Imagine the sound of it, the sharp clink, clink, clink of bronze striking stone, the dust falling like tears as the cartouches are hammered out, the attempt to scrape the name Matkare from the walls, the attempt to rewrite the past, to smooth over the anomaly, to pretend that the sun never shone quite this way. But stone has a memory. Walk through the colonnades in your mind. Run your fingers over the defaced inscriptions. The name may be gone, chipped away into rough oblivion, but the shape of the cartouche remains. The depth of the carving is too great. The shadow of the hieroglyph still lingers in the hollows. You cannot erase the geometry. You cannot untie the knot of the architecture. The ramp that sweeps up to the sanctuary still commands the eye to lift. The fluted columns still march in perfect rhythm. The orientation to the winter solstice still catches the light exactly as she commanded. The building itself is the name. Every block of limestone, every carefully calculated angle, whispers her presence, and the obelisks at Karnak. They still pierce the sky. They may wall them up, they may try to hide them behind masonry, but they cannot unmake the granite. The pink stone is stubborn. It is the bone of the earth. It will stand in the dark, silent and enduring, waiting for the masonry to crumble, waiting for the truth to be revealed again by the wind and the sun. Her legacy is not just ink on a scroll that can be burned. Her legacy is the horizon itself. She has changed the silhouette of Thebes. As long as the mountain stands, she stands. As long as the sun rises and strikes the electrum tips of her needles, her spirit will flare into being. It is a legacy written in a language that time cannot silence. The sun dips below the hills. The sky turns a deep, bruised purple, then a velvet black. The transition begins. The royal barge is waiting at the quay. But this is not the golden barge of the Opet Festival, loud with music and life. This is the barge of the West. It is painted black, the colour of the fertile earth, the colour of resurrection. It is silent. The body is carried on a pier. It is wrapped in the finest linen, layers and layers of white cloth that smell of myrrh, cassia, and the dust of natron. The preservatives have done their work. The flesh is dried, purified, turned into an eternal image of itself. The rowers dip their oars. Splosh, swish, splosh, swish. The sound is hushed, respectful. The water is dark and oily in the night, reflecting the torches that burn at the prow and stern. The flame does not dance. It stands straight, guiding the way. They cross the dividing line. From the east bank, the land of the living, the noise and the market, to the west bank, the land of the dead, the silence and the tomb. The procession moves up into the valley of the kings. The path is steep and rocky. The air here is different. It is dry, ancient, smelling of flint and thousands of years of baked stone. The wind howls softly through the canyons, a mournful whistling sound that echoes off the cliff walls. Woo, woo. They reach the tomb entrance. It is a small, dark mouth in the earth, leading down, deep down, into the womb of the mountain. They descend. The air gets cooler with every step. The heat of the day is left behind, down into the bedrock. The torches cast wild, flickering shadows on the walls of the burial chamber. The walls are painted with the Amduat, the book of the hidden chamber. The hours of the night are mapped out in yellow and black. The snakes, the demons, the gates, the map for the soul. The sarcophagus waits. It is a massive chest of quartzite, red as the rising sun. It is carved with protective goddesses, their arms spread wide to embrace the king. They place the coffin inside, wood into stone. The heavy stone lid is slid into place. Listen to the sound. Grind. Thud. It is the sound of a door closing that will not open again for an eon. The priests retreat. They sweep the footprints from the floor with palm fronds, erasing the presence of the living. The torches are extinguished one by one. The darkness is absolute. It is a heavy, thick darkness, solid as the rock itself, but it is not empty. In the silence of the tomb, the scent of the burial oils lingers, a sweet, resinous ghost. The air is still. There is no time here. A minute is a century is a heartbeat. Matkare is no longer a woman. She is no longer a king. She has become an Osiris. She has entered the horizon. She is sailing now on the solar bark, passing through the 12 hours of the night, fighting the serpent Apophis, moving toward the dawn. She is safe. She is held in the arms of the calmed. Mountain she loved. She is one with the stone, one with the silence, one with the eternal rhythm of the stars that wheel overhead, indifferent and beautiful. The story of the mortal is finished. The story of the god has begun. Sleep now. The river flows. The sun will rise, and the whisper of her name will remain, caught forever in the breeze that sighs through the columns of Deir el-Bahari. And so the sun sets over the Nile, and the great stone temples fade into the gentle mist of time. We slowly close the heavy book, placing it back on the shelf. The story is finished. The history is written, and there is nothing left for you to do. You are safe here, deep in the quiet of the library, surrounded only by the comfort of flickering candlelight and peace. If you wish to return to this warmth tomorrow night, perhaps leave a gentle like or subscribe so the library stays open for you. But for now, let go. Drift deeper into the dark, deeper into the warmth. Sleep, sleep. Good night.